That's all. So, welcome, still happy New Year's. I don't mind saying that. We got all month, right? And I'm glad you came. Today we're going to talk about another thing, another topic, another theme that relates to our new year and how we face the challenges ahead, how we face what we see in the news, and most significantly, how we face what we see inside. And the topic is the divine feminine. But first, an announcement from our sponsor. So if you'd like to take a look at your program, it's not really a program anymore, it's just more than, informational something. But looking inside and you'll see that we have a beautiful review of a lot of the good stuff that's coming up. Quickly, to recap. First, we have the opportunity to volunteer is ever present and everywhere. If there is something you'd like to be involved with, let us know. We have a wonderful volunteer coordinator who's not here today, but we can get you connected if you're interested, and there's an email for you. From welcoming people at the door, to helping in the kitchen, to special projects, volunteers run Althea. We also, in particular, do always need extra help and volunteers for our Women's Homelessness Initiative, so consider that. We have Saturday morning meditations at 9 o'clock. Those are not meditation classes, but just a time to gather in the community and meditate. Today at 1 o'clock, we have the Sunday Deep Dive, and the Sunday Deep Dive is a deeper examination of the theme in the service. So if it wasn't abundantly clear, or if you fell asleep, or you were busy playing, what is that, Candy Crush, you can come and get round 2. Or maybe you just liked it so much. But it's also a time to process and discuss and connect with other community members, so it's a good time. Let's see what else we have. Oh, Erin Kestelroot, our own Erin, wonderful Erin, is going to be doing a fantastic presentation and discussion on mental illness, a personal perspective, with a particular attention to how spirituality plays a role in maintenance, healing, and recovery from setback. If you've been interested in A Course in Miracles or taking classes with Shannon Shepherd, her classes continue, although there is a change in the time, right?
It's on there.
It's on there, but that's what I'm pointing their attention to.
The date.
Yes. Check out the date and time, you'll see there's a little change. We also have a wonderful, wonderful exploration of David White's beautiful writing and poetry with Joni, who's waving her hand. And if you don't know David White, he is like the author of probably a good quarter to a half of all of our readings. So check that out. That'll be a wonderful kind of soulful book study, you might say. And I've heard her plan for the program. It sounds great. There are some seats left in the Deep Soul Study with myself, and that's Monday mornings. And then we have a transformative retreat coming up, also with myself. I didn't know that was in there. And that's in Bacalar, Mexico, in the Lagoon of Seven Colors. It's crazy beautiful. So there's all kinds of good stuff going on here at Althea, and we look forward to sharing it with you. So, a couple last quick things, since I'm doing so well with the timing of announcements. I'm not going to embarrass this person or name them. Okay, Terry, don't worry. Mrs. T, Miss T, sorry. Anyway. Well, I think we have our first armchair member. So, Kathy McCain came up to me today and said, we have our first armchair member. And I thought, armchair member? And I just sort of thought it was a joke, because she just got up from an armchair. But here's the deal. We have decided that throughout the year, we always have so many questions and requests about when to become members, and people wanting to become members, but then we only have our membership ceremonies like a couple times a year, and what if you miss it, and then you have to wait like another 6 months, but then maybe you have a cold, and suddenly it's like 2 years. So the deal is this: if you can find this lovely lady, hands up, our Director of Membership, Kathy McKay, you can become a member anytime. And what does it mean? Well, you can talk to her about that. But the idea is that we want to have a rolling reception for people who would like to become involved in the community. And then, when we have our spectacular ceremonies, you can be a part of that whenever it suits you. Does that make sense? And one of the reasons why we're doing this, in case you're wondering, who cares? What is a membership at Althea anyway? It is required that you're a member to vote at the annual general meeting and also to run for positions on the board. And since we would love to have each and every one of you on the board, okay, some of you, not just easy, it would be worth making the commitment, if that's what feels right to you, as soon as you feel ready. And then who knows, we may have work for you. All right, is that interesting? Is that interesting? Yeah, all right, fine. Okay, well, Gonzalo is back. Welcome to the Are you ready to dive in? Are you ready to dive in? Yes. You want to go eat instead? Okay. Oh, thank you, Rusty. That was great. I heard that. All right, then. Let's put down the busyness of the morning and let's get settled. So I'm going to invite you to close your eyes and take a deep breath. A deep breath in and down into your belly, and then a long, slow exhale. In through your nose, drawing the breath down. And then release long and slowly. Maybe you want to hold your heart or put your hand to your heart as you breathe in and envision yourself receiving the light, the blessing, the love that is life. And as you draw that in to the quiet place at the center of your being, let it settle. Let it merge. As you feel yourself relax. Your shoulders drop, the muscles in your face soften. Ease back into your seat. For here we remember, though it may not always seem that way, that life is looking after you. Spirit is present. Love and wisdom are everywhere, if only we would slow down, open our minds, open our hearts, and embrace that feminine spirit of being. Feminine consciousness in each and all of us, which knows that the best way to begin anything is to stop, to listen, to nourish, embrace mystery, connection, the cycles of life and love. And in this slowing down, we allow the Spirit that is life, God, the one that is all, to come to us and through us. In each moment. And so, together as one and yet each in our own way, we pray. Dear God, to the great Spirit and mystery, to the one that is all, awaken and activate the feminine energy in each of us. May we be stewards of the feminine spirit. May we be blessed by her strength and wisdom, power and peace. May we each be as divine mothers, each as divine grandmothers to this creation, each one of us, regardless of body or culture or story. Dear God, may we find the courage and clarity to see this world as our own, to see this world as ourselves. And so, as we pray for ourselves, we pray for others. As we pray for others, we pray for ourselves. Dear God, may this Spirit be felt around the world today, in this moment, and in the days to come. We pray for peace. We pray for dialogue and listening. We pray for the activation of connection and community. We pray for healing and wholeness. And we pray that in this new year, in this new world, that we will make way for the rise and the knowing of the divine feminine in all things, everywhere. That peace and wholeness would be ours together. Amen. Despite our incredible, I think it's incredible, embrace of diversity, different paths to the one, we do affirm our legacy, our history, and the ones who paved the way that we could sit here today, literally. Many of you know, over 130 years ago, it was the divine feminine awakening in Pueblo, Colorado, a small group of women who received a vision, a new vision for their lives, their communities, their churches, which was to understand all things as one thing. All things as expressions of God and a vision of God for all, everywhere, that we not only share in but are each a part of. And in their strength and in their power, which you must realize at that time in history, at that time in this country, it would have required quite a bit of feminine power to stand up in 1880, 1885, 1889, the College of Divine Science was incorporated as women and say, yeah, that whole church thing, I think you're doing it. I mean, this was a time where in this country, more than half the population couldn't even vote. And I don't just mean women. Native people were still not considered human. Black people still didn't have human rights. This is a very, very daunting environment for a small group of women to say, I think we know what's really going on. And they did. No surprise. And through the power of their conviction and through the power of their belief, they unfolded this message. And they built a community that eventually came to Denver and literally built this beautiful sanctuary that we sit in almost 100 years ago. They built this for you. For you. That's amazing. So we receive this gift week after week after week. And the simple affirmation that they prayed we would remember that all is one. And the one that we call God, or Spirit, is all. And so with that, we share in something they left for us. If you look at the back of the program, it says Althea's Statement of Being. And each week we affirm together with a different kind of perspective or a different lens or a different flavor. But we affirm this oneness that is all. And today, as we talk about feminine and masculine and change and cycle and process, we move into the sacred diversity and dynamics of life itself, and yet we remember at the heart of it all, we are one. So if you would, we can read together. God is all, both invisible and visible. One presence, one mind, one power is all. This one that is all is perfect life, perfect love, and perfect substance. We are individualized expressions of God and are ever one with this perfect life, perfect love, and perfect substance. usually I pace around and I'll get to that in a minute. And I felt like I had to sit down today. So, speaking of the divine feminine, my wife and daughter are visiting family, so they're out of town. And it's funny because a lot of people, who know that ask me, like, "Ooh, what are you doing?" Which is sort of like their way of saying, like, "What are you doing for fun?" But my daughter, if you don't know, is 2.5. My son's 11. And I'm doing all the stuff I can't do when they're all normally around. So I'm cleaning and organizing and sorting things until 10 o'clock at night every night. That's what I'm doing. Yeah, I took time out. I went and saw Star Wars, but that's about the extent of mine. And something interesting happened though. I might get to this. So, I moved around my fair share. So there's a bunch of boxes that have a lot of valuable stuff in them. And it turned out it was all trash. But usually at the bottom there'd be a few gems, And I found some of my old journals from when I was 13, 14, 15, my poetry that I wrote about awakening and all that stuff. And I didn't really have time to look at it, but I set it all aside. And then, I don't know if it was with the full moon. It was actually Wednesday night. It wasn't Friday night. Friday night was the full moon and the lunar eclipse. But I always pay attention to the moon in my house, partly because it makes my daughter crazy, like clockwork every month. But we all feel it. We're all lunatics in my house. And, I meant that in a nice way. And I went out, and so I let the dog out. It's late, it was cold. And I looked up, and I said a little prayer, to the moon, as I do, and then something really weird happened. I had to check my glasses because the moon was radiating this extraordinary canopy over the earth. Like a great, I don't even know how to, I want to say great skirt, that sounds sort of sexist, but it was this radiant sphere that she was emitting, but it was coming down and around us. And it was sort of invisible, but sort of shimmering with rainbow light. And I thought, I am using cleaning products that are probably too strong for an enclosed space. Do you know what I mean? Like maybe... And then I kind of shook my head and I looked again, and I couldn't shake the feeling that she wasn't just holding us, but she was radiating. And it started to feel more and more personal. And I know a lot of you have had moments with the moon. I know that, because you're alive. And then I had this feeling wait, are you really trying to help us this year? Because it's a friggin' mess. We could use some extra help. And she said, I've always been there for you. I'm always there for you. You just have to remember. You just have to ask. Then I went back in. And I went down and I started going through my journals because I had this weird feeling. And all of a sudden, I started stringing together probably the most important moments of my own personal spiritual journey. And almost all of them were under the moon. That's a funny coincidence. I remember when I was 14, I was in northern Arizona with my parents. My brother and sister were too old and cool to go on spring break with us, so I went alone with my parents. And of course, Sedona, northern Arizona, Grand Canyon, it's all sacred and magical, and this is literally true. I found a New Age audio cassette. An audio cassette is a plastic device that contains a kind of tape with recordings on it. It's too hard to explain, but for those of you that don't know, it preceded digital. It's too hard to explain. Anyway, so you put this thing, and I had a Walkman. It's like iPods don't even exist anymore, right? Because we all have phones. Anyway, I was listening to the music. And I remember one night, it was kind of like a nature vacation, and we were by a creek. It was probably Oak Creek, actually, and I asked my parents if I could go out in the night by myself. And I know a lot of you don't know me, but for the rest of you that do know me, the history of Jonathan's life is his parents letting him do totally insane things, unsupervised. And here I am. So anyway, I went out, and I was listening to this really ephemeral, ethereal music. It was beautiful. And then I went to the edge of the creek. I saw the full moon reflecting in the water. And then I remember hopping stone to stone into the middle of the creek. And then just sitting there until the tape, turned over and turned over again. More than an hour passed. And in my journal, I wrote, "Beauty is everywhere. Therefore, there is always hope." And I thought, yeah, that's true. That's all true. We can find beauty everywhere. And we've all seen the National Geographic photographs of war and drought and disaster with the strange presence of beauty, haunting, sometimes disturbing. But it's true. Beauty is everywhere. And the moon reminds us. It is a feminine principle to know, to see, to look for beauty everywhere. And what's encoded in that is hope, because if you can see beauty, if you can feel beauty, and maybe it's just the sunlight coming in your morning window, maybe it's just the way the barista put the foam on the top of your coffee. If you can find beauty, then the love and wisdom of spirit is just a step away. It's just a step away. The feminine knows that beauty is not superfluous. Beauty is not dangerous. Beauty is not to be controlled or manipulated. The divine feminine knows that beauty is part of what awakens us to the light of God. So I kept flipping through the journals, and I came to a poem I wrote. I did not bring it to read. And it came from when I was 17. And I just finished high school, and I had gone to the family cabin. My family has a little cabin, and it's by a lake. It's on a lake. And I went for a month by myself. Again, this was before cell phones, and we didn't have TV or any electronics out there. Except for my Walkman, I'm sure. My typewriter. And the poem was about this one night when I sat out eating my dinner by the water, watching the moon rise. And I had this moment, and I know some of you have had this moment, where the moonlight was reflected like a perfect pattern. You know when you see that? The moon is just coming across the surface of the water like a golden trail. And it is fleeting, and it is obviously temporary, and yet it feels like you could walk on it. Do you ever have that feeling? Come on, who's ever seen that and felt that? Yeah, like look at that. More than half of you. And in that moment, I remember having a little fantasy. I wrote about it, which is maybe you could walk on the moon's trail when everything is just right and enter another world. That's what it feels like, isn't it? It feels like the moon is pointing us to something beyond. The moon, in so many ways, in imagery, in myth, in story, in artistry, in song, and in its presence, reminds us of mystery and magic. Which, of course, being an immense feminine power, is why it was feared, right? Watch out for the moon. And at the bottom of the poem was a note, and it just said, "Remember mystery." And I thought, yeah, that's right. The divine feminine is all about mystery. In the yin and the yang symbol that many of you know of, it's the, right? It's that circle. It's like half white and half black. What a lot of people don't know is that the white is the yang, the masculine, and the black is the yin. But in traditional Taoist teaching, the yin is not defined by the circle itself. The yin, the black, is actually infinite. It's actually not even the circle. The only thing that gives you the sense that it's defined by the circle is the masculine. You see, the masculine implies the feminine, but what if you imagined your black and white yin-yang on a black piece of paper, and then you just erased the little white line you make around the black? Can you picture that? That's the true teaching. That out of nothing comes everything. Out of mystery comes logic and reason, but not the other way around. Mystery is our original condition, and that is a part of the wisdom and the power of the feminine. Amen? Little one's like, I know all this stuff. Come on! I came here for a different experience. I know about that stuff. So then, the third, there's four stories. The third writing that caught my attention was probably one of the most life-changing, life-defining moments of my life. I have talked about it on this stage. And it was a moment where I was later that same year, my 17th year, I was now 18, and instead of going to college or getting a job, I hopped into my old, what I was driving at the time, an old Subaru, with a tent and blankets and stuff like that. I decided I was going out west. And I was going to search the wild west of America until God finally spoke to me. I was sure that I could accomplish this in the summer, at the very least by Christmas. Thank God for my family. It happened. So I came home. But one of the pivotal moments was when I was way up high in the Sierra Nevada. And I was following this rough trail to a place called, I don't mind telling you, Mono Hot Springs. It's probably on a map. But it was one of those roads where you had to actually fold in your side view mirrors because it just sort of creeped between trees. It was like a forest maintenance road. And of course, before the days of cell phone, and I drove with excitement and enthusiasm, and all I could think was, my mom would kill me if she knew what I was about to do. So that wasn't it. So I made a camp, and the plan, I don't recommend this. And for the new folks, how many new people here? And, I'm sorry, because you're going to be like, oh, this guy's insane. And these people keep coming back. Anyway, so the plan was that after a few days of settling in and preparing, I would walk into the wilderness, just like one of those crazy guys in those crazy books, and I would find a place far from anyone, and I would just sit and wait until God finally told me what to do. That was the plan. Well, the night before, I had set out my blanket on a little rock under the moon, final words of prayer and hope for a good journey. And as I sat there, and this can be a longer story, but I'm going to shorten this. As I sat there and stared up at the moon, a little bit afraid of what I was planning to do, asking for help, imploring for help. All of a sudden, the moon just kind of vanished. And then, I was wearing glasses at the time. So that's the universal Jonathan spiritual experience move. And I looked back, and there she was again. And then the prayers fell away, the words fell away. And then all of a sudden I watched as the moon kind of was absorbed by the sky. It sort of disappeared. And it got dark. And the darkness where the moon once was started to spread. And it slowly consumed all the stars, and then the trees, and then the ground. And then I was gone. And I don't know for how long. But suddenly, I was coming back. I remember the first thing I noticed was my teeth. My tongue went over my teeth, and I thought, I have a mouth? And then I thought, I have a body? My body started to kind of materialize in my consciousness, and then slowly the whole thing reversed. And I'll tell you that in the moment that it was occurring, there was no thinking, there was no aha, there was no, whoa, this is the great experience I was hoping for. Everything just vanished into some kind of empty awakening. And this is I think it's the first chapter of Return to the Sacred. If some of you are like, I know this story. And then I went to bed kind of stunned. And when I woke up, that's when it suddenly all made sense. And I spent the next day just writing all day. Because what happened, as is that everything became one thing. But when everything becomes one thing, there are no two things. Which means there's nothing to see and nothing to be seen. There's no seer, there's no subject. It's really all one thing. And damn it. That's right. The moon did it again. The moon did it again. And it's true. All things are one. That's what brings us here. All things are connected. And of course, everything I wrote, that I still have, was about that. Well, the last story, and some of you might have heard this. There was a time where there used to be a time where you could buy an around-the-world plane ticket. And it cost the same then that it now costs me to fly to, like, Vancouver. And on an around-the-world plane ticket, you could stop wherever you wanted, as long as it was in a certain hemisphere. So I had this great adventure planned. I was about 25, saved up my money, and I was going to China and Australia and India and Africa. And kind of along the lines of all the other stories I've just shared, here it was a couple days before leaving. And the only thing I had planned on this 6-month adventure was that I knew some people in China. And that was it. And my parents were a bit concerned because, I'd saved up a little money, but not enough, presumably, to last that long in that many places. And I was like, no, it'll be fine. I'll work it out. I'll meet people. So it was the day before I was to go, and I was just finishing up a research project I'd done with the correctional services in Canada. And in the process, I met a Native American elder, or a number of them actually, but one in particular, a woman, Vicki Whalen, if you're out there, Vicki. And, we were just saying our goodbyes. I was telling her I was going on this trip, and she said, oh, you should go see my friends. I have friends in Australia, Aboriginal healers, and in New Zealand, Maoris. Why don't you fax them? Tell them you're coming. I'm not even going to try to explain fax to those of you. Fax, not F-A-C. Anyway, it was like an email, but it just was weirder. And sure enough, like 48 hours later, I was arriving in Sydney to an entourage. I have to admit it was pretty cool, because it was an entourage of like the most beautiful Maori women. And I was like, yeah, spirituality. And anyway, so this woman picked me up, a friend of this other woman, and I was staying at her home that night, and she said, the only thing that's weird about you coming is that tonight I have a ceremonial responsibility, because there is a sacred site, a sacred spring of natural waters that our people have made prayers and offerings in for thousands of years, and I have to lead that, and I trust you enough to take you, but I don't know if I trust you enough to leave you at home, because we just met. So I was like, okay, well, I can sit in the car, that's cool. And then one by one, we picked up the other people, the other women, to go to this ceremony, and one by one, they were always like, what's he doing here? I'm just debating whether I'm going to comment on the fact that Maori and Aboriginal women are just a little more direct, let's just say. So the definite feeling was like, this is women's business. And if you've ever been to Australia, you know that in the Aboriginal culture, men's ceremony and women's ceremony is a very serious thing. They take the different energies of consciousness very seriously. So it was a long drive, and by the time we got there, the mood had changed. We pulled into the parking lot of what's now like a rec center. And they had permission from the government and the local officials and the rec center that on the certain ceremonies they would be allowed onto the property to return to this sacred site. And there I remember thinking like, wow, this is a beautiful place. The moon was full. And I'm like, I'm going to sit in the car or sit on the hood. Like, what a gift. It's just a beautiful night to be a part of this. And the women gathered in a little circle together. And then Christine, the woman hosting me, walked over to me with a blanket. And I thought, God, it's so sweet. Lay back, look at the stars. And she said, well, it's clear to us. It doesn't make any sense. We've never done it before. But you're coming with us. And tonight, you'll be a woman. Yeah, that does sound a little weird, doesn't it? And I had super long hair at the time, a ponytail. And they were like, literally, put your hair down, because we have special permission for a women's ceremony on this land. We can't take any man, or they're going to think we're screwing with our promise and all. So literally, you need to go in looking like a woman, in case anyone sees you. Okay. We were driving home, and we dropped everyone off, and Christine was sitting quietly, and the moon was still up in the sky, and she said, well, I guess it makes sense, because you're here on a real adventure, aren't you? You're here for a reason. Like, you know what we knew. I knew what she meant. She knew what I meant, right? You know what I mean. You're here on a quest. And she said, so it's only right that you would start in this way, because in our tradition, anything of meaning, anything of significance, everything sacred begins with the feminine. Period. And that story, which kind of encapsulates all of them, brings us to this moment that we share together today. Which is that we've kind of come to this weird place in society where, you know, moon circles and the divine feminine and all this stuff is kind of like for a certain type of person. Usually women, right? You know those kinds of women, right, Rebecca? Those full moon, dancing naked kind of ladies. Hypothetically, I wasn't blaming her. But that's not right. That's a mistake to think that the divine feminine is for them. It's not an optional interest as we go forward. To embrace the feminine is the only way forward at this point if we seek the kind of future that most of us are talking about. If we want inclusivity, if we want peace, if we want to feed the world, if we want to protect nature, if we want collaboration between nations, then everything we do going forward must start with the feminine, must hold the divine feminine principles, and must never let that go. There will be no future for us as a species, at least in my estimation, if we don't get this, and get it soon, and get engaged. The divine feminine, as we have kind of explored already, it's about starting off with the appreciation for beauty, the ability to accept everyone and everything as they are. Even if we don't like it, even if we want to change it, it starts with acceptance. Someone wants to go to war with you, sit with them, talk to them. But more important, listen to them. Listen. Why would they want that? Why would you want that? What's behind it? The divine begins with listening, with patience, and appreciation of life. That's how we find beauty in each other. And yes, mystery. We must start by releasing the arrogance that we know all we need to know, because we don't. And it doesn't matter if you're talking religiously or scientifically. Even science itself is being rewritten at an alarming rate. Newtonian physics being replaced by quantum physics being replaced by theoretical physics, one layer after another. Every story we've ever had has been revealed to be just a story. And that kind of humility, that kind of openness of mind and heart is a critical starting point. And connection, right? The third journal entry. Connection, the affirmation that we need each other, that we are never alone, that we are always connected, is critical for any problem solving, for any path forward, for any party, any country, any project, any business. Because the last teaching is not just, the teaching from the full moon ceremony in the sacred well with cross-dressing Jonathan. It's not just about everything beginning with the feminine, it's about process and cycle. And isn't that one of the key gifts of the moon? That she changes every day, every day, every day. We know she's sacred, we know she's whole, we know she's present. But we can't always see her. She doesn't always look the same. She's not always in the same damn place. But cycle, the consciousness of cycles is critical to our path forward, because it means whatever you think you do in secrecy will be revealed. Whatever you think you do in one part of the world will eventually affect the other part of the world. There is no disconnection, no matter how disconnected we feel in our hearts. The simple, energetic, biological, spiritual truth is that we are all connected, always. And if you don't like what's going on in this moment, wait. Because everything is changing, and changing, and changing. And if you want the year 2020 to be a year of awakening, healing, wholeness, and transformation for the planet, then I humbly offer that maybe you begin with the divine feminine. Just start there by cultivating that energy in yourself. Asking yourself questions about what does that mean in your life? What would it look like in the world? How would you communicate differently, act differently, choose differently? What does the divine feminine look like or feel like when she is alive and vibrant in you? And if you forget, then cultivate a new relationship with the moon. And let her be your reminder of this extraordinary energy, of this extraordinary consciousness that is in every being, every creature, every human. It's not about gender. It's not about biology. The divine feminine is within each of us. It is an expression of spirit. It is not going away. We might. It won't. And if you want a beautiful path forward, then close your eyes and remember the moon. I think that's enough.
The Charge of the Goddess by Starhawk. I am the beauty of the green earth and the white moon among stars, the mysteries of the waters. I call upon your soul to arise and come unto me.
For I am the soul of nature that gives life to the universe. From me all things proceed, and unto me they must return. Let my worship be in the heart that rejoices, for behold, all acts of love and pleasure are my rituals.
Let there be beauty
And strength,
power,
and compassion,
honor,
and humility,
mirth
and reverence
within you. And you who seek to know me, know that your seeking and yearning will avail you not unless you know the mystery.
For if that which you seek you find not within yourself, you will never find it without. For behold, I have been with you from the beginning, and I am that which is attained at the end of desire.
Hello. One of the principles of the Divine Feminine tension that we are struggling with in this world is the movement from power over to power with. It's something that a lot of us have not seen modeled in our lives, and yet we do it all the time wherever we find community and true family. So I'm going to invite our ushers to come forward, because Althea is, more than anything, a community. Some people like to split words. Is it a center? Is it a church? Is it a community center? It's not about the structure. It's about the heart within it. And you make it so. Your presence, your gifts, your donations, time, money, talent, that is what brings Althea to life. There is no Althea without you. Literally, you. We do this together. And so we give thanks for the way you help, the way you create this beautiful light and this harbor for connection, and spirit, and community in the world. Thank you.
Source of all that is, I am so grateful for the opportunity to be engaged in the life of this center and to develop and practice my ongoing support for all that is provided here. We offer gratitude and thanks for these precious gifts, given generously to support the work and effort of this center for the good of all who come here to learn and grow spiritually. Thank you for your kind gifts. And may they serve to support the good works and vision of this sacred place. Amen. Amen.
Am I up? Yeah, right. This is my stock show outfit, just so you know. I'm going to this outfit. Giving Michael a little bit of a run for his money on getting do the cowboy hat and stuff. So I'd actually like to invite a couple of ladies up on stage with us, Judith and Catherine. Jonathan and I decided just this morning that we needed some feminine power for this chant that we're going to teach you all to do with us. And Catherine and Judith were gracious enough to, at the very last minute, to agree to do this with us. So, you can also. So we're going to stand as you're able and sing the mother chant. And the words are, Mother, we are calling, the children are calling. Power, power, for love, our power. We're going to change that. The first time you sing it through is your love is your power. And then you sing your love is our power.
So I just wanted to say, only at Althea will you find an openly gay man in full Western wear singing a chant to the Divine Mother. You can't make that up. You can't make that up. It's the way it should be. It's the way it should be. And who knows? Maybe that's what the Cowboys were singing. We don't know. I don't know. Long days in the sun. Could be. So, a few reminders and then a little closing prayer, and off we go to lunch and out into the world. So first of all, remember to take a look over all the wonderful offerings coming up. Now, Shannon Shepherd, you were there waving her hands. So if you're interested in the Course in Miracles class and you want to ask questions about it, she's here to answer the questions. Joni is here to answer questions about her class. I never answer questions about that. You just leave more confused. Anyway, check out what's there. Our prayer partners, if you don't know, we have an amazing crew of healing prayer practitioners, and they will be waiting for you in the room on the other side of that door. If anyone's feeling in need of a special prayer or blessing after the service immediately. We will have a spectacular lunch. Chef Tom is here. If you are new, we would love you to come as a guest. So make sure you come and join us for lunch. We also have a book for you for free. It's a real book. Barbara has a little announcement about the Women's Homelessness Initiative. 30 seconds.
Anyway, any help to break down the diagnosis is most appreciated. I have crushing pain. I have a very dear friend of mine who's dying. And I need help at the hospice over on St. Paul. So if you'd be willing to give me just a couple of hours, at least to this week, his end of life is very
Of course. So if you can help with the Women's Homelessness Initiative or with her hospice request, let her know. And if you can't help, our love and prayers are with you and with him. And now some thank yous. So thank you, first of all, to all of our volunteers, ushers, and greeters, kitchen help, our kitchen volunteers. Special thanks for Stephen, who always brings us magic. And of course, a special thanks for the ever-grand Gonzalo. And I think that's it. If you want to explore the themes of the Divine Feminine in your life and more, we'll meet at 1 o'clock. People are welcome to help break down the room immediately following at 2 o'clock. And if anyone's not attending the workshop, you could also just stick around immediately after lunch and help out around 1 o'clock. Okay, so 1 o'clock you can help by breaking down. 2 o'clock you can help by making beds. So lots of options. All right, so let us close. I'm going to invite you to shut your eyes, and before your mind departs to other things you have planned for the day, let us take a moment to be in gratitude for the energy and the spirit of our time together. Dear God, to the one that is all, Divine Mother, may we awaken to your presence each and every day. May we seek and uplift the Divine Feminine in ourselves and each other. May we cherish and share the gifts of the divine feminine. May we hear the call to serve, to love, to renew our lives and our world. May we remember the blessings of beauty and the hope that it brings us. May we be humbled by mystery and so learn to let go. May we feel our interconnection and so learn to listen for the love and wisdom in each. And may we be ever attentive to the endless cycles of life and the precious power of this moment to bring love and light into the world. For all these things and prayers that remain unspoken, unnamed in our hearts, for each other, our loved ones, and a world at peace, we lift them together and say,